So this was pretty wild and definitely not something that I expected to happen, but basically during EVO, I ended up getting pulled into Riot's sort of media setup to play some ProjectL with some pretty cool people. So I ended up going against Esfand, of course, of OTK fame, and he's a massive Twitch streamer as well, Unroolie from the YoVideogames crew, and playing alongside me as my duo was Too Easy, who's a prominent Mortal Kombat pro player. So what in the world am I, this tiny ProjectL content creator, doing on stage with some of these actually famous and prominent figures? So straight up, it wasn't like me being selected by Riot. It wasn't me being like recognized for being a content creator or anything like that. It was honestly kind of random, and it was really like a right place, right time type of scenario more than anything. But to further give some context of how like bizarre this situation was, I wanted to kind of tell the story of what happened prior to it. So the previous day, Day 1 of EVO, Friday morning, I get there bright and early, and the intention is to basically just straight beeline it to the ProjectL booth to try to get my hands on time with the game as soon as I could and try to beat the crowds a little bit, right? So I am standing there in line about to play this game that I've been anticipating for years, and like it's finally happening type of thing. And I'm not gonna lie, I was super nervous, and I attribute that to kind of two things. So like one, there's that paranoia and feeling in the back of my mind of like, what if the game's bad? Like, what if I don't like this game or it ends up not being like my cup of tea? Which, you know, spoiler alert, thankfully that ended up not being the case and I really enjoyed it. But there's always that fear of something I've never touched, and I've been putting a lot of time and energy into anticipating this game. So there's that. But then the other bigger thing was this was the first time that I've publicly been out and about as Bruiser Minion, as sort of my alter ego. I've never like talk to somebody and address myself as that, you know? In fact, there's very few people that I know in real life who even know that I do this. So it was just something where my nerves were there. I wasn't used to it, and I didn't really know how to present myself to some of these people that I was about to start kind of getting very, you know, close to and like interact with. So anyway, get through the line, play the game, and that alleviates the first worry of whether or not the game's good, because I enjoyed it right away and it was a ton of fun. But then I get on the other side and I start to see some of these people that I, you know, recognize, and these people that I've very much been a fan of, sometimes even before they were involved with ProjectL. And I want to kind of go say hi and, you know, express my eagerness of what's going on with the game and how everything's shaping up. So first one, I'm not gonna lie, I straight up botched it. I didn't even tell them who I was. I just kind of gave my first name. I was like, yeah, looking forward to the game, man. Like, seems good, you know? So it was a bit awkward, and I apologize for that interaction. You know who you are. We've talked about it since then. But even after that, even when I got to the point where I was finally at least saying like, hey, I'm Bruiser Minion, like not trying to get some sort of recognition, like that was my big worry, is I didn't want to come across as clout chasing or anything like that. But just wanted to say like, hey, I'm somebody who has dedicated a lot of energy and anticipation to this game, and I just want you to know like I'm really looking forward to it, and kind of pick your brain on it and ask some questions or talk about it, right? You know, have a chat with these people that I respect who are making something that I'm very much looking forward to. And then after that, I had a few more conversations with a few more devs, maybe some content creators here and there. I at least got to the point where I was like, you know, telling people who I was and at least introducing myself. So that was a plus. But overall was just kind of finding my groove and everything and just getting used to this new side of things. But fast forward to Saturday, and basically my expectation was to like circle the ProjectL booth a couple more times and just continue to get time on with the game and just see how many times I could play it. But as I've done that a couple times, I realized that on this media setup that they have, some pretty prominent players going on. So they've got some devs who are playing the game alongside like content creators, and they'll like rotate people out, and you can see some higher level gameplay of people who've actually put time into the game and actually know what they're doing, unlike me, who was completely trash at it. So I'm just hanging out, watching the matches, enjoying the footage, and then I guess maybe a little while into watching these matches, I realized that to the side of me is Too Easy. And Easy is somebody that I've actually talked to before. We've kind of bonded over the anticipation of ProjectL. He's also very much looking forward to the game, and we've kind of become friends about it type thing. So I go over and I introduce myself, because he doesn't recognize me. He just knows Bruiser Minion, and we've kind of talked in the ethos through Discord and that kind of thing. And of course, we're both just popping off, talking about how the game is actually living up to what we want it to be, and really just gushing about how it feels and all that kind of stuff. And maybe a few minutes in talking to Easy, and Kenny comes over, sees Easy and just like straight line straight to him. And it's very evident immediately that these guys are like homies, right? Like they're popping off, they're like catching up, they're talking about a bunch of stuff in the game. And Kenny apparently was actually just about to take over this media booth to host a sort of impromptu YoVideogames versus their fans up there in the ProjectL setup. So of course, second match of this happening, Kenny sees his friend out in the audience, Easy, and was like, hey, you guys want to come up? Like Easy's like, hey, Bruiser, you want to go play ProjectL, like be my duo? I was like, I mean, yeah, that's like literally why I'm here at this point. I might as well just go and see what there is to see and just go play the game. So I get up there, and I don't know at what point that I realized this, but my opponents are going to be Kenny himself and Esfand. And I'm like, I go from being like super squirrelish about like talking to devs one-on-one to all of a sudden I have a literal like live studio audience who's about to watch me play. And Esfand himself is streaming the event to, I don't even know how many thousands of people at this point. So I just thought it was like a really funny contrast to all of a sudden I'm just kind of being thrust into literally being in front of a bunch of people, which at this point I'm still anonymous, which is still really, really funny because to me, I'm this guy who's been a ProjectL content creator, and that's literally the only videos that I'm making, who coincidentally incognitally gets put up on this Riot stage, which by the way, the very first dev that I talked to that I was so kind of awkward to acknowledge this, which was hilarious, by the way. But also when I got up on stage and I was talking to everybody and being introduced to everybody and I have this live crowd of people, I felt great. Like I didn't have any problems. I wasn't like super nervous. And if anything, I was just like, I want to like play the game well and see what I can do and just do the thing, you know? And I think a lot of that came down to everybody that I talked to, whether or not they knew I was Bruiser or that I was just some random guy or anything like that. It didn't really matter. Like everybody was just super accommodating. Everybody was super welcoming. And that's kind of the moral to the story is honestly, you don't have to feel like you're some prominent figure or that you're some big content creator or that you're some top level pro player. Like everybody was super nice. And I really appreciated that. Like it was a really cool experience for me, but even regardless of being like a content creator or anything like that, it was just nice to just be around a bunch of people who clearly had shared interests. And at the end of the day, they were just all there for the love of the game. So anyway, I just wanted to say it was a really cool experience. It was a little wild and I thought it was really coincidental, and just huge shout out to everyone involved. But thank you guys so much as always for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.